welcome back, loyal followers of the Tau to another episode of Expanding Empires. This week we're going to go over the WTC 2023 lists. There were 6 nations that chose to take Tau with them this time around, um, and I'm super happy to see that 6 nations were even willing to take them, all things considered from when you look at stats. But I'm sure, as you all know, stats don't tell the whole story when it comes to WTC and teams events in particular. So I am super excited to take a look at these lists and go over them and see what different countries have come up with in terms of what's going to be good for Tau, what's going to be similar in all of them, and what's going to be different. So let's just get straight into it. So starting off with Stefan Apostolov from Team Bulgaria. Definitely going to butcher all these names. I'll just get that out of the way now, just let it be said. So let's start off with his list. So we got Ornvar, a nice little lone operative there to sit there and grab objectives and such. We got 2 Cold Star commanders. The first one has got 1 cyclic iron blaster and 3 missile pods, 2 gun drones, and Exemplar of the Kauyon. The second one has got 1 fusion blaster, 2 plasma rifles, and 2 shield drones. We've got 3 broadside battlesuits with heavy ray rifle, twin plasma, seeker missiles, and all the missile drones. So just full damage output there. Then we got 2 units of 6 crisis battlesuits, as I'm sure you could guess with the 2 cold stars. The first one, they both got 12 shield drones and 6 shield generators, as to be expected. But the first unit has got 6 fusion blasters and 12 plasma rifles. The second unit's got 8 cyclic iron blasters and 10 missile pods. Then we've got 3 units of 1 piranha with fusion blasters, and then 3 units of 2 tetras, as well as 2 units of 3 stealth battlesuits with all the upgrades, because why not? Okay, so looking at this one, we've got 3 big heavy damage dealer units with the 2 crisis units and the broadside battlesuits. Then we've got 6 units of T7 hull running around and pushing primary, scoring secondaries, that sort of thing. Really like that. And then we've got the stealth battlesuits as well for deep striker shenanigans or just spotting. So that's all really good. Ton of damage output here. Really glad to see something other than cyclic iron blasters just being spammed. As you guys will know, I'm a big proponent of trying things other than cyclic iron blasters, provided that you know what your unit wants to do, as long as you have a specific role for it in mind, which clearly Stefan does here. I have been able to speak to some of the Bulgarian players, not Stefan in particular, and I've got a few of their thoughts in mind. They do think that Tau is genuinely good, and that these weapon choices are what they want to be running. It's not like a model limitation, anything going on here. So really interested to see how this one gets on. Yeah, super excited for that one. So next up, we've got Alan Davison from Team Scotland. So we got Shadow Sun. We got a Cold Star Commander with 4 cyclic iron blasters, 1 marker, 1 shield, and then Exemplar of the Kauyon. 2 units of 3 broadside battlesuits, armed exactly the same as the last list, so heavy rail rifle, twin plasma, seeker missiles, missile drones. Then we got a unit of 6 crisis battlesuits with the 18 cyclic iron blasters, the 12 shield drones, and the 6 shield generators. We have a solo Krutox, possibly a scout around, screen, hold objectives, that sort of thing probably. We've got 3 units of 1 piranha with a fusion blaster, 2 units of stealth battlesuits, again with all the upgrades, 3 units of 2 tetras, and 5 Vespid. So this list has swapped out the crisis battlesuits for broadside battlesuits. I'm kind of surprised to see people going so heavy on the broadside battlesuits on the WTC map layouts. They are very dense, and it is quite hard to get lines of sight, particularly with a slow unit like broadsides. But I would guess that in this case, this is going to be more for just zoning out those line of sights, encouraging a passive playstyle, prevent keeping a watch on the objectives, making sure no one just wants to run forward and do silly things. You want anyone to mess about and find out, I guess, right? So again, we're looking at once again we see the 3x1 piranhas and the 3x2 tetras. So the 9 hulls out on the board, and then we see the Vespid as well. I'm really surprised to see the Vespid to be honest, especially when the Alan hasn't maxed out on stealth battle suits, since stealth battle suits do pretty much the same thing that Vespid do, but are tougher. Vespid have the advantage of being able to go back into strategic reserve, but as is customary for Tau, our version of that rule is worse than most other versions of it, because the Vespid go back into reserve at the end of your movement phase, not at the end of the opponent's turn, which is really important because that means that you can't do a secondary mission action basically, um, and then go back up at the end of the opponent's turn to come back down in your next turn. So in this case, you could possibly deep strike them on turn 2, do a mission action, then in your turn 3 go up and come back down in your turn 4. So the utility of that is a bit questionable. If you start on the board turn 1 and do something, maybe that can be worth it, because then you come down on turn 3 and 5, which might be a bit better, a bit more convenient. But yeah, I mean, Vespid they're not a bad choice, and I'm not going to say that by any means. It's just I'm surprised to see them when the stealth battle suits aren't already maxed out. But other than that, I really like this very high damage output, particularly with the Silicon blasters and the heavy rail rifles. Right, so next up is Maciek Tazinski, I believe. Again, butchering it, but do my best. We've got Ornvar, we've got a Cold Star Commander, Force of the Kind Blasters, Marco, Shield Drone, Exemplar, as expected. We have an ethereal on the hover drone with 2 shield drones. We got 3 broadsides, again the exact same build as the last couple we've gone. Heavy rail rifle, plasma, seeker, missile drones. We've got 6 Crisis battle suits with 17 Silicon blasters and 1 airbursting fragmentation projector, 12 shield drones, shield generators, as you would expect. And we've got 2 units of 3 Crisis battle suits, all armed with Silicon blasters, maxed out with shield drones and some shield generators in there as well. Got a Ghost Kill with the Raker, the Fusion, and the Battlefield support system. It's pretty much the only way you'd ever see it run. 4 Crew Hounds, 3 Solo Piranhas, 3 times 2 Tetras, and 5 Vespid. Once again, we've got the 9 Toughness 7 holes running around. But we do have a few switch ups here. So we have the Ethereal on the back, just on his Larry, just to farm CP, I guess. Then we've got the big Crisis Battlesuit unit with the 1 airbursting fragmentation projector, which I believe is a tech piece for the WTC boards, because you can't use fire and fade if you don't shoot. So I think that what that is there for, rather than doing any actual damage, is just so that you can actually shoot something, so that you can fire and fade afterwards, just to prevent the opponent from just hiding everything on the board from you, particularly when it comes down to like turn 4 or 5 and you need to cover a lot of distance, like get an objective at the end of the game. Having that airbursting fragmentation projector in there to help you activate fire and fade could come in very handy. The other Crisis battle suits are there to, they're just the more damage dealers flying around. They are movement 10. They can go 16 if they have to. They're just fast and fairly tough. It is 18 wounds with a 4 up invulnerable save. That isn't that's no joke. Especially for 200 points. You can take that. We got the Ghost Kill for more primary, Crew Hounds for screening, and as I say, we got the same configuration of Piranhas, Tetras, and Vespid. Interestingly, I believe I heard that Scotland took their Tau list to Poland to play in a team tournament, and then after that, Poland has rocked up with Tau. So clearly they've seen something in it. Poland is a Seed 1 team, one of the best in the world, known for doing loads and loads of prep. There is absolutely no way that they wouldn't take down if they saw something in it. So it's obviously something in there that we. So I can't wait to see what this does. In other words, I'm going to be looking at the pairings and matchups for the whole of WTC just to see what's going on. Alright, so next up we've got Andre Boutos from Greece. We've got Onvar, Shadow Sun, 3 Firesight Marksman teams, Long Strike, 3 Ghost Kills with the Iron Raker, the Fusion, and the Battlesuit support, 2 Hammerheads with Railguns and Twin SMS, 2 units of 4 Groot Hounds, 2 Razor Shark Strike Fighters, a Sun Shark Bomber, and 5 Vespid Stingwings. Wow, talk about whiplash. Completely different list. Super heavy skew into Lone Operative. Ornvar, Shadow Sun, 3 Firesight Marksman teams, 3 Ghost Kills, 8 8 Lone Operative units on the board. That's crazy. So we got Longstrike and the 2 Hammerheads. The Crew Hounds are basically the only stuff that's going to start on the board. That has to be hidden, and then you got the Razor Sharks, the Sun Shark, the Vespid probably coming in from reserve. I like this is just like a total skew that no one else seems to have gone for. I think it's really interesting. Some people aren't really going to be able to deal with this, particularly gunline lists. I'm thinking, your guard kind of lists that are just going to be able, that want to sit very far away are just not going to be able to do that. So I think this can be a lot easier to hold the midfield with a list like this. So this is really interesting, really out there, really cool. Can't wait to see how this one gets on. Alright, next up we have Dino Co. Again, probably butchering that, but I've done my best. Coalstar Commander, same usual build, Force of the Iron Blasters, Marker, Shield Rat, and Exemplar. A Firesight Marksman team, 3 Broadside Battlesuits. Slightly switching up the build here with the Heavy Rail Rifle, Plasma Seeker Missile, 3 Missile Drones, 3 Shield Drones, 3 Crisis Battlesuits with Iron Blaster, drones, Shield Drones, and Shield Generators, 3 Ghost Kills with the usual build, 2 Piranhas, 3 units of 2 Tetras, 5 Vespid, and 3 Stealth Battlesuits. Okay, so starting from the top here, broadsides with 3 Shield Drones. 1 Shield Drone in each one brings broadsides up to 9 wounds. That's a really good bracket, like a break point. Because that makes you stronger against damage, well, damage 1, obviously, but makes you better against damage 2, makes you better against damage 4, makes you better against, yeah, those are the ones. But you don't lose anything, essentially, again, apart from opportunity cost against damage 3, damage 5, but again, damage D6 or D6 plus 1, or D6 plus 2, especially, it's also really good. So, that's a cool little preference choice, I guess. No big unit of crisis here, but just a little one, and then the triple ghost kill for stuff. There's a lot of small units, MSU, running around here at this point, flying around the battlefield, just picking stuff up. I almost think there's too many Tetras because there's only really 2 big damage dealing units for the broadsides and the crisis, and everything else is sort of ghost kills. So again, nothing wrong with that. This is definitely a different kind of list. This is more of a scoring list than the others are bringing, which is really cool. There's a lot of high toughness, a lot of vehicles in here. So same with the other Tau list. There's definitely a skew that we're going towards. So really like the look of that. Oh, and next up is Team Israel. I believe they're a newcomer this year. So it's Dmitry Sokolinsky. Probably again. God, I feel so bad butchering those. So we got Shadow Sun. We have got Cold Star Commander with 4 missile pods, 1 marker, 1 shield, and exemplar. We've got an Ethereal, 2 units of 10 breaches with Guardian and Gun Drones, 2 Devilfish with SMS Seeker missiles, 6 battlesuits, all with missile pods, shield drones, shield generators, 3 ghost kills, 2 Tetras, 5 Vespid, and 3 stealth battlesuits. So the obvious one here is the missile pods on the crisis suits. That unit is putting out 44 missile pod shots per turn. Big fan of going that way with it, as we'll go over. I'll go over in a moment. Gives you the extra range and the extra damage without the risk of hazardous. So that's pretty cool. Something I'm not necessarily a fan of is the twin SMS on the Devilfish. If you keep the gun drones, they're not called gun drones anymore, but if you keep the gun drones on the side, it gives the Devilfish an assault weapon, so you can advance it, use its data sheet ability, and still be an observer because for the greater good, because you have an assault weapon and are thus eligible to shoot. So not a fan of twin SMS there, but all the same, they're just really there to deliver the breaches. We have Tetras anyway for spotting, so you know. Triple Ghost Kill, again, there for primary scoring. We like to see that. And then Ethereal for CP generation as well. All looks good. Right. So what can we take away from this one? Um, well, obviously Tetras are extremely popular. Almost every single list had maxed out on Tetras. Um, they're a huge, well, they are a force multiplier. They're cheap bodies and they have full effectiveness at range, which a Piranha does not. Piranha has to get close to the enemy to use their weapons or their power shock ability. You don't have to do that with the Tetra. So you can sit at, they essentially have an unlimited range for being an observer. Um, but so they can just sit back on a midfield objective or even a home objective with 14 toughness 7 wounds and just be annoying for your opponent to get rid of. So it's really solid. So they are cheap bodies. Um, if you if you're at home and you're looking at going to tournaments or something like that, and you're thinking, oh, I've got to buy 6 Tetras, I wouldn't worry about it too much. As good as Tetras are, and they are good, I don't think they're essential for Tau to work, because they give a full reroll to hit for your main damage dealers. Broadsides, if you take Shadow Sun, broadsides can be hitting on 2s rolling once anyway. And then broadside crisis battle suits are hitting on 3s, going to 3s re-rolling, which isn't that much of a damage increase. It is a damage increase and it is noticeable. It probably pushes the crisis battle suits into being actually point efficient, rather than a little bit overcosted, um, which is great. But I don't think it's necessarily needed, because we are it's just sustained. It's not like criticals on 5s or anything like that. It's not worth re-rolling all your dice to fish for 6s, hitting on 3s, because the maths works out exactly the same. You'll get this on average. You get the same number of hits if you re-roll everything that's not a 6, or you just re-roll your misses. So it doesn't actually make a difference. So if you don't have Tetras, don't worry about it too much. I don't think they're that essential. You could just get more Piranhas and basically be fine. Um, it's not the end of the world if you don't have them. But they are really solid, and this is WTC. It is the cutting edge, so it's unsurprising people are wanting to take them. Next up, Vespid, surprisingly common. As I was mentioning earlier, kind of surprising to see the list take them where they haven't maxed out stealth suits. Because to me, I was under the impression that they were just strictly inferior to stealth suits. Clearly, I've made a mistake here somewhere. So super interested to see how people get on with the Vespid, how they work. I'm gonna see if I can put some messages out there, see if I can get some questions on people. We can find out what's going on there. Piranhas again 3x1. Because people aren't taking them in large units, they're probably not using them for a Seeker Missile Alpha Strike. Probably just used for objective scoring. I'm going to sit on this objective point, you'll kill me next turn, but you have to kill me, that sort of thing. They can be move blockers because there's a very large model for the points that it costs. They can score objectives. They can. A very funny thing you can do is scout forward 9 inches, move 14, and then charge something. It's very funny to charge a Knight Crusader with a Piranha and watch it not be able to do anything against you. Very funny. Next up, we've got the Crisis unit, are the main damage dealers for most of these lists. Cyclic Ion Blaster is, of course, the most common choice, but we do get a look in from the Missile Pods, Fusion Blasters, and Plasma Rifles. I think that, as I mentioned before, I did say last episode as well, the Cyclic Ion Blasters are a trap. I was probably being a bit facetious for the sake of making my point, but I think that the trap there is if you just blindly pick Cyclic Ion Blasters in all situations, because the overcharged one does the most damage mathematically against most targets. I think that's the trap, just blindly picking it. I think you need to know for what reason you're taking the Cyclic Ion Blaster. So for example, there's some targets where the AP3 damage 3 it's either better or only a very very small amount worse. Like, against Custodes Wardens, it's the difference between killing, 7 and 6 models or something, right? I've just pulled that number out for there. It's the difference of one model. It's probably not worth losing 1 to 2 crisis suits for that difference. So if you have loads of custodies in your meta, or you expect to see lots of custodies, something like Iron Blaster might not be the best choice because you get very diminishing returns on that particular damage profile that you're taking. Um, so But whereas conversely, there's other choices where it's much better. So Cyclic Iron Blast, you have 18 Cyclic Iron Blasters plus a Commander that does about 20 wounds on average to a Knight profile, which is a very powerful thing to have. So if you're going into pairings for a team event, and you can say, right, well, I know I can bring down this Crisis unit and it's going to one-shot a Knight, um, or near enough one-shot a Knight. And that's a very powerful tool to bring into your pairings, and it's going to make the Knight players not want to play you and will allow you to control your pairings a little bit more. The same thing goes for Necrons. Cyclic Iron Blasters are one of the few, Crisis units with all Cyclic Iron Blasters are one of the few units in the game that can kill 10 Lich Guard with all the defensive buffs in one activation, which is again a huge sort of breakpoint, and it changes the matchup entirely for against Necrons, because at that point you can fight for primary against Necrons, which is something that most Necron players aren't prepared to do, because they just normally win it by default. So you can see that the Missile Pod, the Fusion Blaster, and the Plasma Rifle, they'll have a use here, because clearly the teams that are taking these weapons aren't planning on going up against opponents where the Cyclic Iron Blaster is going to be the better choice. Missile Pods, if you want to stay at range, kill, Marines or Xenos even, or even vehicle killing just through mass AP1 with ignores cover, it can be solid for that. The difference between strength 7 and strength 8 isn't very much, because there aren't many units that are toughness 7. Ironically, we are one of them, but there aren't that many. Things like Custodes, Necrons, Space Marines, these are all sort of toughness 5 infantry or toughness 8 vehicles, or toughness 9 vehicles or higher. So the difference between strength 8 and strength 7 doesn't come up very often, because you're always going to be winning on 5s or 3s, regardless, against the same targets. Fusion Blasters and Plasma Rifles are great if you're playing very aggressively, which wouldn't surprise me if the Bulgarians would like to do. So yeah, that's a really super interesting switch up of what we would normally see for the crisis weapon choices. Cold Star commanders everywhere. Cold Star's the only commander that you would ever take, which is really unfortunate, but it is just inevitable. Really, a commander at this point I'm so sad they've fallen so far from grace. You are just buying an extra crisis model and then paying another, 50 to or 60 to 70 odd points for, the ability they give the unit, and that unit is either going to, and that ability is either going to be reroll ones to hit, um, Armor of Contempt, or plus 8 inches of movement, and which is a considerable difference in what you get there. So yeah, no one taking anything other than the Cold Star. Unsurprising, really. We're going to need a rules change on that. I don't think there's any amount of points that you could ever switch that's going to affect what commander that they're gonna take. So yeah, that one just needs a rules change, please. Then we've got broadsides for secondary damage dealers. So as I said before, very surprised so many people took broadsides on the WTC maps. They are very dense. They are quite difficult to get lines of sight on them, especially with the speed of a broadside. So you're basically never going to get that first hit, almost ever, with broadsides. Everyone took heavy ray rifles. There's no point taking the missile pods. As nice as the reroll to wound is, you might as well just take Crisis and move 18 and fire that many missile shots if you want to do that. Everyone taking advantage of the missile drones. That AP2 is a huge breakpoint, especially with an ignore cover unit. So good, so useful. And then a lot of use for the plasma rifle as well. I really expected to see more use of the weapon support system to ignore modifiers to hit to hit. Stealth is really common for a lot of units, as well as big guns never tire as well is a big deal for broadsides. I was really surprised to not see that weapon support system, especially since all you're really giving up is one strength 8 shot at 24 inches, which is shorter than all the other weapons. So That was a little bit of a surprise, um, but hey, what do I know? I'm not a WTC. Um, and then last up is the ghost kills. There were a lot of ghost kills out there. I think Poland was the only team that took one, and then everyone else took either three or none. Um, they are they're great. So we've talked about ghost kills to death. They are fantastic for scoring primary, tankiest thing in the Tau book or index, or rather, not a book yet. Um, and yeah, they're just a real unique point of call for the tower. They can bring that such a tanky unit that so few people can deal with. Um, it's certainly in one activation or with one unit even. Um, so that's super good for us. That it's a really awesome tool to have in your toolkit. Um, so super happy to see the Ghost Kills again, especially since it's such a cool model. And it's been so long since I don't think it's ever been good. I certainly not while I've been playing the game, but that's not been very long. So relatively, I guess, to the Ghost Kills existence. Um, what can we see from Tau WTC overall? Well, um, the teams that have taken them, Poland is a C1 team, Scotland's a C2 team, I believe. And we have some more C2s, C3s. I think Netherlands may also be a seed 1 or 2. Um, in other words, good teams are taking Tau. I don't think this is a situation where people are thinking, we've only got 8 guys in our country willing to go, and he's only got a Tau army, so we'll take it. It's not like that at all. I don't think even for a second that's the case. Tau have got a unique space here that they've clearly carved for themselves. That good players have thought, you know, these are going to be a huge boon for us. I think that's basically coming into the idea of what I've mentioned before about Tau being able to deal with units that other people can't in either 1 or 2 activations. Um, this Ion Blaster Crisis being able to deal with the Necrons, the Custodes, the Knights in a way that few other units can is a really strong selling point for them, as is the sort of mass toughness 7 wound vehicles that they can put on the field. Tau also can use a lot of speed, which a lot of factions can't really match, other than Eldar, obviously. Um, but yeah, I imagine most of these Tau lists are going to end up getting slightly protected in the pairings because you kind of have to a little bit. But all the same, I'm super excited to see where all the Tau lists do, what they end up playing against. So after WTC, I will go back and we're going to look and see the different results that the list got, and hopefully be able to pick apart some um, interesting information that we can use for building our own list and extrapolate that for some stuff for singles. So yeah, that's all I've got for today, guys. So thank you very much, and until next time, see you around.